Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic and a companion video. You see, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we save the second half of the show for live questions. However, we don't always have time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in, but I like to make sure those questions get answered properly in a video. So what I normally do is I gather them up and I use them in a companion video. But you know, with so many of us being stuck at home right now, I thought, why not do it all live and maybe take a few more questions too? So I am technically calling this video an open mic, even though it's kind of an open mic slash sort of companion video, because we do have a lot of questions to get caught up from this morning's show too, but we also have a bunch of other ones. And how are you guys doing this afternoon? I've had a good afternoon. I got a little problem I was working on with my iPad. I couldn't get something with I love my iPad Pro. Love my iPad Pro. It has completely replaced my laptop. 100% has completely replaced my laptop. But I was having problem getting external microphones to work with it, and I finally got it to work today. So my afternoon has been good. I hope your guys' afternoon has been good as well. So yes, got a lot of stuff to cover here today. So let's not waste any time and dive right into the questions to start getting caught up. And we're gonna get things started here today with Nigel M, who writes, my movie recommendation is Hollywood Shuffle. It's a low-budget comedy which stars Robert Townsend. I remember that film. Actually, he directed it too, if I'm not mistaken. As a struggling black actor, the stereotypes he has to deal with and the hopes and dreams he has for his career. I remember that because he plays this character because of his appearance and ethnicity. He only gets certain types of roles, but he wants to be a serious actor. And we were just talking about him the other day because somebody brought up another recommendation of his the other day. It was Meteor Man, which was another one that came up. So that's a good recommendation, Nigel. I like that one. All right, Double Crit writes, thoughts on Law Abiding Citizen 2009? In my opinion, it's okay. Here's the thing about Law Abiding Citizen. Gerard Butler, 2009. The first two acts of the movie are wonderful. I love the first two acts. The first two acts are great. And then it just goes in this really weird direction in the third act. To the end of the film, I'm like, what the hell? I mean, I still overall enjoy it because the first two acts were so good. But yeah, the third act of the film goes and kind of falls off the rails a little bit. That's always kind of been my opinion of that one. At any rate, Krypton Cage writes, hey, John, you got to see Westworld Season 3, Episode 2. Well, I got to see Episode 1 first. Again, I'm not interested in I didn't like Westworld Season 1, 2 all that much. I wasn't going to watch 3, but then the trailer convinced me to. Karam Majub writes, finally, we got Disney Plus here in the UK this past Tuesday, just in time for quarantine, right? Like it could not have come at a better time. I mean, I'm sure people in the UK would say a better time would have been when it launched everywhere else. Yeah, that's true too. But yeah, why not? When you're in lockdown, the library on Disney Plus, I mean, not to mention Mandalorian, but the library on Disney Plus is so great. And you're right, man. I'm glad you guys were able to get it in time for this nonsense that we got to live through right now. So I hope you enjoy it, man. All right. Mandalorian of Gondor writes, hello, John. What do you think is most likely to happen first? The Crow reboot or Red Sonja movie? Also, have you read any interesting graphic novels as of late? Thanks and keep up the filthy. Make sure to wash your hands after like 8 times every day, washing the hands. I'm not kidding. Like I really do. I've been obsessive with washing my hands every day. Man, the Crow reboot and Red Sonja. I'm going to say this. It's weird to say, but I have a feeling out of the two, a Crow reboot will actually happen first. And the only reason I say that is because they seem to be incredibly hell-bent on getting that thing made. They've gone through like 4 different sets of directors. They've gone literally through 5 or 6 male leads. I mean, it's everything from Jason Momoa to Tom Hiddleston to the dude from Boardwalk. I'm forgetting his name right now. Luke Evans at one point was supposed to be playing it as well. And there's 3 or 4 other names as well. They've just gone through it. The thing is cursed. But again, the reason I will say I think this one happens first is because they seem hell-bent on getting it done. So I'm going to guess that's the one that gets done first. All right. Sam O'Neill writes, Selfless with Ryan Reynolds is a great movie. I don't hear many people talk about it. If it's the one I'm thinking of, the one he's in with Ben Kingsley. Hold a second. Selfless, Ryan Reynolds. Let me just make sure it's the right one that I'm thinking of here. Selfless Ryan Reynolds, 2015, directed by Tarsem Singh, who is not my favorite director, like, at all. But anyway, Ryan Reynolds, Natalie Martinez, Matthew Good, Ben. It is one with Ben Kingsley, right? I gotta tell you, everybody knows I am a huge Ryan Reynolds fan. Massive Ryan Reynolds fan. He's a good Canadian kid. The dude can do almost no wrong in my opinion. Selfless might be my least favorite film of his. It might actually be my least favorite of his. Now, it certainly has some upside. The whole story, we've seen the sci-fi body swapping kind of idea before, Ben Kingsley. But I don't know. For me, it felt very thin. And unlike a lot of other Ryan Reynolds stuff, which I feel the urge to go back and watch again, I've never felt the urge to go back and watch that one again. But that's just me. But listen, Sam, it doesn't have bad critic ratings or terrible audience ratings. You're not alone. There are a few people that really like that one. For me, it's one of the weaker ones, actually, oddly enough. So, it is what it is. Everybody's got a bad day at the office. All right, Django19 writes, just finished $1 Million Baby, one of Clint Eastwood's best. One of Clint Eastwood's best films. For the first time, and wow, what a masterpiece. Its gut-punching ending has my eyes full of tears as I write this. I was expecting a good boxing movie, but this is much deeper than that. I see now why it won Best Picture. Yeah, it is a brilliant movie, and one of those endings to a movie that not only will make you feel, it'll make you think. It's one of those endings to a movie that if you go with a bunch of friends to watch it, you will walk out talking about it. You will walk out talking about it and talking about that movie. And, there was a lot of controversy surrounding the movie because of the choices that Clint Eastwood characters, I won't give it away, but the choices that Clint Eastwood's character makes at the end of the film, it's got a lot of people, there was some outrage over it even. It is a powerful, moving, disturbingly human film. I love this film. Performance is great, top to bottom. I'm glad you had a chance to watch it, Django. It's amazing. Winso writes, Endgame became #1 without a release. Thanos for the win. Yeah, but if you want to play that game, here's the thing. If you want to play that game, Avatar defenders could say, Avatar was the #1 film for 10 years straight without needing 21 films of a buildup, 17 A-list stars, and, whatever. Avatar was just a standalone movie all by itself, came out and made that money. And they're right. They're right. So it all depends. And then if you want to play that card, then the Avatar defender can play the card of, inflation. Avatar still beats the shit out of Endgame. It does. I mean, to me, it is, the number is the number, right? Endgame is the #1 box office film of all time. Period. That's it. That's all that matters to me. Inflation doesn't matter to me. Re-releases don't matter to me. Nothing else matters. Sequel doesn't matter to me. Original film doesn't matter to me. All that counts is that number. The final number, the unforgiving, unrelenting, uncompromising number. That's it. That's all that matters to me. But if you want to play that game, well, Endgame did it without re-release. Then the Avatar people, well, Avatar did it without 21 films needing to build up to it and 17 big major stars and all this and all that and all the pageantry and all the this and all. They can make that argument. I don't like to play any of that. To me, the number is the number. And right now, Endgame is the #1 box office film of all time. And if Avatar passes it, then that's it. I don't want to hear anybody crying about re-releases. Just like right now, I don't want to hear anybody from Avatar crying about inflation. I don't want to hear it. The number is the number. It's Endgame right now. And if it ends up being Avatar, then it's Avatar. And then if Endgame gets its re-release, like its anniversary release 5 years and passes Avatar again, then it's Endgame. I don't want to hear any crying from either side. The number is the unrelenting, unforgiving, uncompromising, unbiased, cold, hard facts number. So it is what it is. Anyway, no crying, Avatar Endgame fans. No crying from either of you. All right, Jetfire97 writes, hey, John, happy to see your channel growing. Happy for you. Thank you very much. I mean, it's been a great ride. I've been having a really good time. Thank you for that, Jetfire. I appreciate that. Greg Hood writes, the studios try to stretch out the summer season every year earlier and earlier. It's true. January still seems to be a month they cannot crack. Reasons. I think they can crack it. They don't have the confidence to do it yet. I've said this for a few years, going all the way back to AMC. I believe there is a lot of opportunity for a high-profile project to drop and be released in January. I really do. And I think the right movie dropping in January could make a ton of money. Now, it's a big gamble because you're risking taking a potentially really expensive film and putting it in unknown waters like that. But I honestly think one of these days, one of these studios is going to release a big film in January, and it's going to clean up. And then we'll see a new trend, but we'll have to wait for somebody to be that first penguin in the water, you know? Greg Hood writes, I recommend 2006 movie Running Scared with Paul Walker. Somebody else brought up that exact same movie. I swear to God, it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Somebody brought up that exact same movie the other day. There's been a little bit of a Paul Walker reminiscing going on lately. I guess that makes sense with Fast 9 coming out and everything. Anyway, good recommendation, Greg. All right, Midnight Madman writes, hey, John, always wanted to see a take on Spider-Man where he isn't fully aware of his powers and starts off punching his way through a slow burn of Peter scared of heights to parkour to web slinging. I don't know. You know what's funny, Midnight? I've got a buddy named Rod who I believe kind of said that to me once before. It's like it would be great to see a Spider-Man movie where he doesn't really fully become Spider-Man till the end, right? Theoretically, that sounds interesting. Honestly, though, if people go, I think you'd get a bit of a revolt with the audience because people going to see a Spider-Man movie want to go see Spider-Man. It reminds me a little bit of Superman Returns. Superman Returns with Brandon Routh, who was great in it, by the way. Like, I contend is a really good movie. It's a good movie. That was just a bad comic book movie. You can't do a movie that's called Superman that is all just a really more in-depth, a character study about the humanity and the struggle between his practical godhood and humanity and all that. That's great as an element to a movie, but the movie's got to be more than that if you're calling it Superman, you know? And I have a feeling that if you did a Spider-Man movie where he doesn't really even fully become Spider-Man till like the end of the film, I have a feeling a lot of people would revolt against that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it would be like really fascinating, but I have a feeling a lot of people would revolt against that. I'm not really sure. Anyway, it's an interesting thought, Midnight Madman. And listen, if my friend is any indication, you are not alone in thinking that. So who knows? Let's see what happens. Maybe somebody will want to try a different take on Spider-Man at some point. All right, Chris Hunt writes, 3 things I read on the internet. 1, Carell didn't want to leave the office. 2, Avatar logo isn't Papyrus anymore. 3, YouPorn wants to stream cans. Yeah, they can't do that because that's not up to Can to allow them to do that. That's each individual film would have to consent to allowing their film to be distributed and shown on YouPorn. And I'm not quite sure many films would do that. To the first one, that is a misrepresentation. The Carell thing is a misrepresentation that's going around. I've had a few people write to me and go, did you hear that they got rid of Carell? Carell didn't want to leave. Steve Carell did not want to leave the office. They didn't want him. So that's kind of a misrepresentation of the situation. When you really read all the stuff, they were simply not, I mean, Carell would have stayed if they made him the right offer. And I was reading one of the staff people, one of the direct comments from one of the staff people in the show that says they weren't willing to give him what he wanted. To which they thought that was insane. They should have totally given him what he wanted. It was insanity not to give him what he wanted. And maybe that's true. But the representation that's been passed around social media the last 24 hours or so is that they made it look like Steve Carell really wanted to come back and they just didn't want him. And that's not the case. They did want him. They were just not willing to give him what he felt at that point he was worth to stay on. And he may have been right, but I just think it's really important that we not continue the misrepresentation that Steve Carell just showed up to work one day and the NBC executive was saying, no, we don't want you on our show anymore, Steve Carell, go away. It's not like that at all. It's not like that at all, as it rarely is. It rarely is. All right. Edward O'Neill writes, guilty pleasure of mine. Where'd it go? Guilty pleasure of mine. Ninja Assassin 2009. It's a little bit of a guilty pleasure of mine, too. It's not a very good movie, but some of the action, the choreography in it's great. And by the way, for 2009, some of the visual effects were pretty sharp, too. I just love the action sequences and the ninja stunts. Story's okay, but visually it awesome. I agree. Story's okay. Maybe even a little bit less than okay. But visually, it's a fun look. You go into a movie called Ninja Assassin. What do you think you're going in for? You're not going in there for Tarantino dialogue and M. Night's plot twists and Spielbergian narrative execution. No, you're going into a movie called Ninja Assassin. On that level, Eduardo, I got to agree. I had some fun with it too. Let's see. Abhishek 7033 writes, have you seen The Platform 2019? No, somebody just wrote that like 2 or 3 days ago. I have not. I have not seen that one yet, but it keeps being brought up, so it must be something I should probably take a look at. Richard Karate writes, John, greeting from the UK. London is now on lockdown. Yeah, I heard about that. And me and my girlfriend, who are from New Brunswick, Canada. New Brunswick is a province in Canada, right beside Nova Scotia, which is a province in Canada, a province in which I was actually born. See, Hamilton, Ontario is my home. Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada is actually the city I was born in. Just a little bit of John Campea trivia there for you. So a good Canadian girl are going to watch the Godfather trilogy for the first time. You know what's fun is how many people are letting me know that they're going to watch the Godfather for the first time now. Which my friends would say I'm crazy. I would tell people, you know what? There's a lot more people today who haven't seen the Godfather than you think. Because I think everybody just assumes everybody's seen the Godfather. Not true. And now, ever since the lockdown sort of started, I've gotten a lot of people writing into me saying, I'm watching Godfather for the first time. I just saw Godfather for the first time. Oh my God, I just watched the Godfather the first time. It's so good. And that's one of the, again, making lemonade out of lemons. That's one of the silver linings of all this situation right now is a lot of these classic films are getting watched and appreciated. So good on you, Richard, for checking those films out. Richard also writes, John, I think you should play Skyrim for your next play and chat. It's a great game. You'll love it. I used to play a lot of Skyrim. As a matter of fact, I remember I was playing Skyrim because Skyrim was one of those games. This was years ago, obviously when Skyrim first came out. But my main computer was an iMac, a really good iMac, by the way. And Skyrim was one of those games that would play on an iMac. Not a lot of games back then did play on Macs the way that a lot more do play today, but at any rate. And I was playing it right up until lightning hit the house and literally fried my computer. And I don't know why, but I just never played it again after that. Not really sure why. Not really sure why, but I never played it again after that. And you know what I was thinking about, because I was on Steam, I think it was Steam I was looking at it on, and I saw that there was a Skyrim remastered, and I thought really hard about downloading and starting to play it again. I might do that, Richard. I just might do that. All right, Russell Amador writes, hey, John, did you see NATO chief, I think it's creative officer, Patrick Conan? For those of you who don't know, NATO is not the UN, not the military alliance. It is the North American theater owners. So it's like all the movie theater owners. It's their kind of union sort of thing, for lack of a better term. Patrick Corcoran said that they would entertain the idea of having movie theater screening for free once they are able to reopen. Details are vague as of now. Listen, we know that right now, we talked about this a little bit on the John Campea Show earlier today, that, Chinese theaters are starting to reopen. And one of the things that they're going to be doing as they're reopening is like replaying, playing the 4 Avengers films again and Avatar, bringing back Avatar, which is why Avatar may very well retake the all-time box office lead. At any rate, because it's only behind Endgame by like that much. Anyway. The idea of playing like older classic films or big movies and blah, blah, things to get people excited about coming back to theaters again. I will tell you what, under normal circumstances, the idea of playing free movies in the theaters is something you can't even consider because you'll lose money and you'll go broke. But I like this idea. I like the idea of, and I think from a good business sense too, I like the idea of the movie theaters when they reopen to have 3 or 4 days of free movies. Now, granted, they're not going to be the first run movies because there's not going to be many first run movies ready to go when the theaters open again. They're all going to need a little bit of a marketing campaign. But open back up with movies that were out 6 months ago, whatever, and have it be free. Just have it be free. Now, to the movie theater owners, that's no problem because the movie theaters make very little money on the ticket sales. Movie theaters make the vast majority of their money on concession stands. So movie theaters will be fine. So I like the idea of opening it up, free admission to some big, slightly older movies, because one of the things the theaters are going to have to do is get people back into the theater again. Now, I still think there's going to be a lot of people just eager to get back to the movie theaters just because it just makes life feel normal again. You know what I mean? To get out of the house, go do something like that. I think there's going to be a lot of people, but there's also going to be a bunch of people that are still going to be a little bit slow, a little nervous, a little cautious about running out and getting back into social situations again. Absolutely. But you do something like this. Say, hey, what do you got to lose? It's free. You know, we're going to play, I don't know, Jojo Rabbit for free. Ford v Ferrari back in theaters for free. You know, something like that to get everybody excited about going out, get to the movie theater, see that they were able to go to the movie theaters and everything's fine now. Again, once it's safe for them to do so and the theaters do reopen, I don't want them to rush it. I'm just saying, when it is time, whenever that is, going free is a great idea. And not because we as consumers want everything for free, but rather from a business point of view, you get people into the theaters again, get them used to coming to the theaters again. Plus, if you're a movie theater owner, where you really make your money concession stands, you'll still be making money at the concession stand, which is where you make 80% of your money anyway. So to me, I don't see a downside. I really don't. Plus, that gives the theaters a couple of weeks of, you know, classic movies, slightly older movies, movies that just left theaters before, you know, the Corona lockdown happened, and give the first run movies a chance to spin up a marketing campaign. Then they can enter theaters and then you can go back to normal. I think it's a great option for them. I really do. And again, right now, I can't really think of any drawbacks. I'm sure there are that I'm just not thinking. Maybe you guys can jump into the comments and let me know what you think are some of the drawbacks. But I think from a fan perspective, free is always great. But from a business perspective, I think it would work really well for them. It's just something that you need to do. And I hope they do it. I'll tell you what, I hope they do it unless they come up with an even better idea. All right. Thanks for that, Russell. Edward Wells writes, Diamond Distribution, the comic book distribution company, they just shut down, has shut down. No new comic book deliveries. Comic shops now being damaged due to the pandemic crisis. Yeah, I mean, that was first of all, when I first read that Diamond Distribution was shutting down, I thought the story was like they were going out of business. I'm like, well, what the hell is that going to do to the industry? What it is, now, Diamond Distribution, they're basically the company that all the comic books send all their comic books to them. And then Diamond Distributors are the one who then sends it out to everybody. And I remember when I first saw the headline saying Diamond Distribution shutting down, I thought it meant they were going out of business. But yeah, they're shut down during the crisis. And you know what? It makes sense. I get it. But hopefully it'll be shorter rather than longer. Hopefully it'll be shorter than longer. And hopefully, you know, with more companies like Diamond Distribution doing their part, shutting things down, all that kind of stuff, hopefully the more that people and companies like this do this, hopefully this will equal getting this BS behind us as fast as we can. So, and then we can all get back to normal. At least that's what we hope, my friends. All right. Aha writes, or aha writes, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Please don't push back Soul, Disney, please. The only reason Soul might get pushed back is because if they're not done with the movie yet, they're not working on it right now. That's ultimately why Minions was pushed back, not because of the release date problems, but because people can't work on the movie right now. And therefore, it's not going to be done and ready to go. And so if Soul gets pushed back, and it might, it's not going to be because of the release dates, because no one's able to work on it right now. So, hey, listen, if it's not done, you can't release it. So I'm guessing we might see it pushed back. But I'm also guessing the pushback won't be by long. I have a feeling maybe 2 months at most it'll get pushed back, but I suspect it'll be pushed back. Let's see how fast everybody's able to get back to work, though. All right. Tom Gillard writes, sing it, John. No one cleans like Gaston, quarantines like Gaston. No one stops spreading COVID-19 like Gaston. That's pretty good. No one cleans like Gaston, quarantines like Gaston. No one stops writing COVID-19 like Gaston. Actually, that's even every syllable. That's like phonetically, every syllable is properly counted there. Well done. That's actually pretty clever. All right, Frank Pajensky writes, Saw the Dora movie and I liked it. Saw Joker and I loved it. Saw it too. Liked it more than Chapter 1. Saw Maleficent 2. Not as good as the first one in my opinion. I never did see Dora. It just looked terrible to me. Looked absolutely terrible. I had no interest in it. Surprisingly though, a lot of people, including a lot of my colleagues in the film punditry space, did bite the bullet to go see it. And a lot of them said, you know what? It's actually not bad, that's great. That's awesome. I'm glad the people who saw it enjoyed it. I just never did because it didn't look like it appealed to me. But I'm hearing a lot of people say it actually wasn't half bad. So that's a great thing. Joker was great. It too, I'm not going to lie to you, man. I was really disappointed with it too. Especially because I liked It Chapter 1 so much. I was very, very disappointed in it too. I don't think the movie sucked, but I was really let down with it. And Maleficent, I mean, they should have called it Sleeping Beauty. It really had more to do with her than Maleficent. I came out of Maleficent 2 going, wow, there really is a surprisingly small amount of Maleficent in this movie called Maleficent. That's how I felt about it, but it is what it is. All right, thanks for that, Frank. Asian Movie Enthusiast writes, I recommend Bad Genius on Netflix. I've had other people recommend that to me. It's a really good and fun heist movie about a schoolgirl who creates a system to cheat on exams. I've heard, you know what, this is funny. Somebody else mentioned that one to me like 2 days ago. I had never even heard of it before then, but you're like the second or third person to mention that one to me. So thank you for putting that on everybody's radar. I might have to go check that out. All right. Thanks again for that, Asian Movie Enthusiast. Dumbledore Calrissian writes, hey, John, one movie watching goal I have during this time is to watch through some of the older Bond movies. Nice. I've only seen the Daniel Craig films. Wow. And I think Die Another Day. Which older Bond films should I prioritize? The best person to ask that is Robert Meyer Burnett, because I've seen all the Bond films. But nobody knows them like he knows them. So I'm also, by the way, kind of a big fan of the Pierce Brosnan ones too. I enjoy like Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, stuff like that. I mean, they're not as good as the classics, but all that. I'm a sucker for Octopussy. Diamonds Are Forever. You can avoid Moonraker. This is the Timothy Dalton, I think, A Time to Kill. Wait, let me see. Not A Time to Kill. I think it's called License to Kill. 1 second. Where is it? License to Kill. License to Kill, not to be confused with The View to a Kill, which is not Timothy Dalton on that. Yeah, there's a bunch of good ones, and there's a bunch of kind of questionable ones as well. But yeah, get back. That's a great thing to do. You got the opportunity. You got the time right now. Get caught up on some of those older Bond films. I think you're going to have a good time. Okay, let's see here. Next up, Dumbledore also writes, my wife and I finally put in part 2 of the Return of the King extended edition the other night. My God, I was tearing up for the entire last 30 minutes. It's a masterpiece. You know what? As much as everybody jokes about the fact that Return of the King had like 7 endings, which you're not wrong. It kind of does have like 7 different endings. I wouldn't replace any of them. Return of the King is, I make the argument, you may have heard me say this for some time. I'm not saying it's the greatest movie of all time, but I believe when you consider all the different disciplines that go into making a film, there has never been a cinematic achievement like Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. And it's not only a magnificent movie in its own right, it's a magnificent conclusion to a series. It's just unbelievably wonderful. And yeah, you get to all, yes, I know there are a lot of different endings. I know, but I think they're all totally worth it and all totally great. So I'm glad you guys had a chance to get caught up on that, Dumbledore. All right, Hot Pie writes, what are some of your favorite international films? I mean, like my all-time favorite cop film is Infernal Affairs. Amelie is great. Ju-on is great, or The Grudge. That's one of the ones I like the most. Those are the ones I usually think about most immediately when I talk about a lot of my favorite international films. So yeah, there you go. Mr. TJ Lynn writes, thanks for daily recommendations. You and Rob bring up attention to lesser known movies, not just superheroes and blockbusters, to diversify people's movie choices and expand our horizons. Today I'd recommend Nice Guys with Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, by the way. Marvelous movie directed by Shane Black that nobody gave a shot to. Nobody went to go see it. It's Nice Guys has kind of become that movie. It's the poster child to me then when people go, Hollywood doesn't make original films anymore, I go, screw you. They make tons of original films like this one that's awesome, as I'm pointing out a poster of The Nice Guys, that this one that is awesome and you didn't go see it. So, yeah, it's still one of my biggest pet peeves when I hear people go, Hollywood doesn't make original films anymore. No, they do. Actually, you want some facts? They make more original films today than in any other time in Hollywood history. It's a fact. It's absolutely true. There's more original film coming out in theaters today. Well, not with the lockdown and everything, but today in general than any other time in history. Y'all just don't go see them. Because the same person who goes, Hollywood doesn't make original films anymore, they're the ones who go to see Endgame 23 times. And there's nothing wrong with that. I went to see Endgame a lot of times. I'm just saying that it's the same people who generally don't go and support original films when they do come out. It's just me. All right, Mr. TJ Lynn also writes, over under 50%. Hollywood will make a film about this pandemic in the next 5 years. Within the next 5 years? Yeah, maybe not next year, but yeah. Yeah, I'll be surprised if there aren't 5 years from now. I'll be surprised if I could look into the future 5 years right now, and I could look 5 years in the future, I would think that we'd probably see 4 or 5 of these films. So absolutely over 50%, TJ, absolutely. All right, Matthew Phillips writes, when it comes to film, one thing can make or break the overall experience for me is if a story ends ambiguously. What are some examples of when ambiguity works or doesn't work for you? Thanks. Keep up the fabulous work, sir. I'm not a big fan of ambiguity because to me, ambiguity in an ending is a cop-out. It's like, well, let's let you decide whatever it is you want to think. And to me, that's not good storytelling. And I'll tell you what, one of the movies that this frustrates me a lot with is a movie that I love. There's a movie I love that has a bit of a question mark ending, like a little bit of an ambiguity ending that drives me crazy, but I still love the movie and most people love it. You know what it is? It's Inception. I love Inception. That movie's great, but that ending drives me crazy. It's up for you to decide if you think the top continues to spin or if it was wobbling. No. We just sat through this 2.5 hour movie. Tell us what it is. What is this? That drives me crazy. Because that to me is like the filmmaker doesn't want to decide where their story went and then stand by it. It just drives me crazy. And like I said, I love this movie. I love it. But that ending drives me a little bit crazy, Matthew. Drives me a little bit crazy. All right. Dancing Dog 60 writes, John, because I am old, I actually went to see Five Fingers of Death, aka King Boxer, upon its release. I also went to see Enter the Dragon upon its release. Wow. I am so looking forward to Shang-Chi. I hope this revives the martial arts film craze. Bruce forever. Listen, that is one of the things, Rob and I were talking about this the other day. I don't think it was on one of the shows, but we were talking about with Shang-Chi, Marvel has an opportunity to do several different things, right? You can do a very classic MCU movie just with martial arts kind of at the center of it. Or you could do a classic kung fu movie that has an MCU flavor. You know, you can do a straight MCU movie, which would be great with a kung fu flavor, or do a straight kung fu movie with an MCU flavor. And either can work. Either can work and be fabulous. But, oh man, I don't know. Look, I'll be happy with either one that they do, but the notion, my mouth waters a little bit at the notion that they just make up like a straight kung fu movie that's set in a Marvel wrapper. You know, that's what I'm hoping to see. But also, I'll be perfectly good if they do it the other way around too. But I'm hoping they really focus more on the kung fu movie aspects of it. That could be great. Anyway, Lucifer writes, movie recommendation. Starring the gorgeous, beautiful, and talented Famke Janssen, who I just saw. She was on TV a couple of days ago as I was flipping through channels. I stopped and watched a little bit of Taken 2, speaking of Famke Janssen. Deep Rising, LOL, it's a cheesy horror with big old monsters. Yeah, Deep Rising was kind of in an era with like Abyss, and there was another one out that was kind of along those lines too. And Deep Rising kind of gets overlooked. It's one of those movies that gets overlooked a little bit because of that comparison. But I like Deep Rising, man. I like that. And good recommendation. I think people should check it out. All right. Johnny Cougar Mellon Campea writes, hi, is Rob your best friend? And if not, what are some ways he can improve? No, Rob is not I adore Rob. Rob is a good friend of mine. I love that guy. But no, he's not my best friend. I mean, I've only known Rob for a couple of years. How can Rob improve? Well, number one, and I'm totally being facetious here, by the way. Number one, he can get off his high horse and get over this whole, I don't like the new Star Trek thing, even though the new Star Trek is awesome. All right, Discovery is awesome. Picard, I haven't seen the last episode yet, but so far Picard I've been loving. This crotchety guy has got to get over that kind of stuff. Of course, I'm being totally facetious. He's entitled to his opinion on Star Trek. No, I tell you what, though, Rob is a delightful guy. And, you know, he and I, we started talking more, after John Schnepp passed away. You know, he and I mean, we were always got along great. We always got along great. But when John was in hospital, that's when he and I actually started talking more. And as a lot of us were talking at the time. And and this, you know, I always enjoyed working with Rob, and you know, when Schnepp brought him on to Heroes, I really, really enjoyed working with Rob on that show. And then when the opportunity arose for him to come and do some stuff with me, I was so excited about it, and I love having him on the show. And Robert Meyer Burnett's just a treasure, ladies and gentlemen. He's just a treasure. All right. Jorge Lugo writes, hey, John, just finished reading Lost Stars. Wonderful book. Thanks for the recommendation. By the way, which other Star Wars novel should I read next? Lords of the Sith. Lords of the Sith should be the next one. That one is actually my favorite all time. The original Grand Admiral Thrawn trilogy, like Heir to the Empire, that's probably still to this day my all-time favorite. But that aside, that's not even canon anymore. Lords of the Sith, I think, is the best Star Wars novel. But I'm telling you what, Claudia Gray wrote a book in Lost Stars, which is creative, very different from any other Star Wars novel you can possibly imagine. It revisits the original trilogy of Star Wars through the perception and viewpoints of two individual kind of kids who grow up through the process of the original trilogy of Star Wars. It's a young adult novel, which turns me off, but there's something about the way she tells that story that was absolutely magical, and I love that book, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, Jorge. All right, Greg Scott Bailey writes, John, echo on the double shot with you and Aaron. Oh, that was a little bit earlier. Yeah, there was. I noticed. I don't know why that was. I just clicked a couple things just to double check things, and apparently then it just stopped. But yeah, there was a short period on the show earlier today where there was apparently a double echo shot. Went away pretty fast. I still don't know what caused it, though. I gotta have to look back into that. Lowell writes, hello, John, Aaron, and Campion streaming gang. Cancer survivor here, and recently had my port taken out. Oh, that's awesome. Afterwards, I celebrated with seeing Bloodshot. And you know, Aaron herself is a cancer survivor. She's got a podcast called Kappa Kappa Cancer, the sorority you never wanted to belong to, which is amazing. She's there as a support system, whatever, for other people surviving cancer and stuff like that. So that's awesome, Lowell. I see there's a number 2 somewhere. Okay, 202. At our only AMC, saw Bloodshot. The joint I had before helped me enjoy the movie. However, upon the recent news, I'm hoping it's not the last film I see there. Stay safe, everyone. And by the way, Bloodshot is available for streaming. Apparently nobody's getting it, but it is available for streaming on VOD. And if you're not sure if you want to see it, we talked about this on the John Campea Show the other day. They did release like the first 9 minutes of the movie online. So you can go watch the first 8 or 9 minutes of it online, and then you can make a decision if you want to go see it. But yeah, here's hoping, Lowell, that's not the last movie you get to see in an open theater. Hopefully they open up here pretty soon, man. Okay. Snake Jerusalem writes, you skipped the Patty Jenkins. Oh, yeah, that's right. Earlier today, I'd accidentally skipped over the Patty Jenkins story, and then I remembered at the last second we went back and covered it. So don't worry, we got it covered. Dropkick Aggie writes, best part about Best Little Whorehouse in that Texas A&M beat the Longhorns. Gig 'em. So Aaron's movie recommendation today is one I haven't thought about in a long time, but it used to be a movie I loved when I was a kid for obvious reasons. Burt Reynolds, Dolly Parton, I think it was Dom DeLuise. Anyway, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. It was such, I haven't watched that in ages. I'm going to have to get back and watch that here, Dropkick. All right. Jake writes, sitting at home bored. So excluding my favorite movies, Star Wars, here are my top 5 films. Number 5, Inside Out is brilliant. I love that movie. Number 4, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That's my favorite Indiana Jones movie. Number 3, Smokey and the Bandit. Speaking of Burt Reynolds. 2, Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 1, Inglourious Bastards. You know, Inglourious Bastards, I've told the story before, but I hated the movie the first time I saw it. Like, hated it. Not disliked it, I hated it. And then months later when I watched it again, I loved it. And I'm like, why didn't I like this? I don't know. It's strange. It's one of my top 2 favorite Quentin Tarantino movies. That and Django Unchained and Inglourious Basterds are my 2 favorite Quentin Tarantino movies. And I hated it the first time I saw it. It's crazy. Let's see. Mr. Hoover writes, where are we at here? Hey, John and company. I wanted to ask you 2 questions. Number 1, what was your reaction when you found out the original Pokemon voice cast all got fired in 2005? I believe I hated it. I'll just answer that quick. I don't care. I never even knew it because I don't care about Pokemon. Sorry. I mean, I know a lot of people do, and that's awesome. I don't, so I never heard that and don't care. 2, is Lawrence of Arabia really that good to watch today, or will I get bored? Listen, it's brilliant. I've had a number of people actually write to me saying, oh my God, I just watched Lawrence of Arabia for the first time because, you know, everybody's in the lockdown, and they loved it. It's so stands up. I mean, look, all film is subjective. There's no movie that you can guarantee you will like. So I can't guarantee you'll like it, but it is one of the greatest motion pictures of all time. And in my opinion, obviously, but I think you'll enjoy it, Mr. Hoover. I think you'll enjoy it. All right, let's see here. NKS432 writes, just showing the love, John. Take care. Stay safe. Thank you so much, NKS. I appreciate that. It's always nice when somebody just wants to write in to be supportive and to say nice things. So thank you for that, sir. All right, DJ Titus writes, based on Aaron's recommendation, I recommend 9 to 5. She talked about that same director of Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, also directed 9 to 5. Dolly, Lily, Jane, and Dabney, love that movie back in the days. And yeah, you know, and honestly, I feel bad. I cannot remember if the song or the movie came first. Honestly, I can't remember if 9 to 5 was a hit song and they decided to make a movie based on the song, or if the movie was a hit and that was the theme to the movie and just the song became big. I just don't know. I was too young. I was too much of a child. I don't remember that. But good recommendation, DJ. Dabney Coleman. All right. RPG with DBJ, the dreaded DM, writes, would a good faith support by the studios allow the theaters keep the revenue from previously released movies such as Avatar, etc.? Thoughts? Well, here's the thing. That would be a good faith move by the studios. But as we were just saying, I think what they might do is actually do just free movies, just to get people back into the theaters. And allowing the theaters to do free movie screenings would allow the theaters to get people back in the doors, buy some popcorn and soda concession stands. That's where the theaters make most of their money and how they keep the lights on. I think that just in and of itself would be a goodwill gesture. I think that would be a very, very goodwill gesture. So one of the two, but hopefully that would be the thing that that does it. Okay, good thought, RPG. And thank you for being a game master or dungeon master. The world needs more game masters. All right. Adam Turchetto writes, should New Mutants just suck it up and go to streaming at this point? This movie release date is the crow of never going to happen. Well, no, because listen, again, no movie is going to make as much on streaming as it will in the theaters. Sorry, guys, the studios have just made that clear for a long, long time. That's just the math of it. There are still people who refuse to believe it. No, if you release this movie straight to video, no, it doesn't. Sorry, every single analysis and study shows that it doesn't. So anyway, let's just get past that. The difference between The Crow, though, and New Mutants, which totally feels cursed at this point, is that with New Mutants, you at least have a finished movie, right? It's not like The Crow where they just can't seem to get it made. New Mutants is a finished movie ready to go. So if you just need to sit that on the shelf for another 3 or 4 months and just sit it on the shelf for 3 or 4 months, then pop it into theaters and it'll make, 30 or 40 million bucks. But that 30 or 40 million bucks is probably a good 25 to 30 million more than you would if you just put it out to VOD. So I think, yeah, they're going to hold on to it, put it in theater. Maybe it'll make 50, maybe it'll make 60 million. Who knows? But they're going to make more money by doing it that way. So again, if it was a movie that was never made, I'd say just give up on it at this point. But it's already made. It's ready to go. They'll just put it out in theaters, which is the right thing to do. And I want to see it on the big screen. I don't want the first time I see this movie to be on a crappy television. I want it to be in a real theater, a movie watching setting, a movie theater. I want to see it on a big screen. Hell, we've been waiting for it long enough. I want that payoff. All right. Lincoln Johnson writes, I recommend The Whole Nine Yards. I love The Whole Nine Yards. Michael Clark Duncan. There's nothing finer than a naked woman holding a gun. That's like one of the most immortal lines of all time. I love that movie. The Whole Nine Yards, 1999. Bruce Willis, Matthew Perry, Natasha Hendricks, Amanda Peet, and Michael Clark Duncan. And by the way, the line he says that to Michael Clark Duncan, there's nothing finer, is Amanda Peet, who, oh my God, true story. Shortly, when I moved to the U.S., when I came to Los Angeles, I was this idiot, hormone-driven, much like I am today. I just wanted to date as many hot L.A. girls as possible. The dream that every idiot male across the world dreams about. Going to L.A., date a lot of gorgeous L.A. women. And before I met Anne, I was very much kind of in that flow. And what does this have to do with The Whole Nine Yards, John? I'm getting to that. So I met this one girl. We met through online dating. By the way, that's when I fell in love with it. Online dating works, guys. Online dating works. Anyway, I met this girl on online dating. And one of the few girls that I dated when I got to LA that wasn't an actress, oddly enough. She was professional, but I instantly developed a massive crush on her because she looked almost identical to Amanda Peet. And I had a massive celebrity crush on Amanda Peet. There's something about her look that I just found completely intoxicating. And also, this girl was just great. This girl was great. She was wonderful. And we actually dated a little bit for a little while. This is all, of course, before I met Anne, which was shortly thereafter I met Anne, and the rest is history. But yeah, Amanda Peet. And yeah, The Whole Nine Yards, hilarious. However, its sequel was terrible. The sequel was terrible, but that first film was all sorts of great, Lincoln. I love that one. Wayne Edwards writes, hello, John. Erin is a pleasure. I love Erin. I've known her for a decade now. And an invaluable asset to the show. I agree. I have friends in the entertainment industry who have lost jobs or they are paused. Veterans and newbies. Financially, some are better than others, but they are all affected. That's the thing. This sucks for everybody. I mean, that was the bottom line. It's just... This situation sucks for everybody. Now, Erin and I got into a bit of a debate earlier today. We got way off topic, and we got on this debate earlier about who's affected more, like the professionals or like the people working in movie theaters. And I suggest that it's the kids working in movie theaters are affected by this a little bit more. And some people say it's professionals. It's fine. The bottom line is it sucks for everyone. Like, I got friends of mine who are actors and directors that are just at home. I mean, they're loving time with their kids, but they're just at home. They just itching to go back to work, But also, I've got a lot of our viewers that work in movie theaters full time, and they're writing me saying, geez, man, I've been out of work now for weeks. I got no paychecks coming in, but I still have bills coming in. It sucks for everybody. It sucks for people who are pros, people who are not pros, all that kind of stuff. It's just all the way down the chain, it's affecting people. And I think that's the bottom line there anyway, Wayne. But yes, I adore Erin. I love having her. Number one, as a close friend of mine for the last 10 years, but also I love having her on the show because she brings such a different perspective. And that's, sometimes Erin says some things that are way off from what like I or Rob would do or say. And Erin is always very self-conscious about, wanting to make sure that she's doing things for my show the way I want them done and blah, blah, blah. And I remember her sitting down and asking me like, do you want me to keep certain thoughts to myself? I'm like, listen, Erin, one of the reasons I love having you on my show is because you have a way of looking at things and some opinions that are totally different than mine. I like that. So if we get into a debate, don't feel like that's me trying to get you to stop saying an opinion that's different than mine. I value that we get to have the debate. I value that we get a different perception. And sometimes your perception will be the popular one. Sometimes your perception will be the unpopular one. But don't let that deter you. I like having you here because you have such a different point of view. And that's what I love about it. And you can never accuse Erin of not being passionate. She's absolutely passionate. All right, next up here. Barbecue sauce on my titties. I just wanted to hear you say that username. Well, it worked. Anyways, I've been following since the AMC days and just wanted to finally support. Sorry it took so long. Keep bringing the good old Filthy American. And hey, listen, if you've been a viewer, you are supporting. If you're part of the community, you are supporting. Listen, if you can kick in a couple of bucks to help us keep the lights on, that's great too. Thank you so much. I deeply appreciate that. But don't think that if you haven't sent money into the show that you're somehow not contributing. By being a part of our community, you are, and I thank you very much for that since the AMC days. So thanks so much for that, man. All right, DJ Titus writes, the party with Peter Sellers is hilarious. It absolutely is. We were talking about Peter Sellers was a week or two ago because we were talking about some Pink Panther stuff, but the party is absolutely one that is hilarious. That is a great recommendation, DJ. An anonymous viewer writes, hey, John, it's not the movies coming in April and June I am worried about because it's finished movies. They will come at the end. But what about September to December movies? The Oscar season movies that some of them are still shooting at February and March. Yeah, I mean, here's the reality though. People would be surprised to find out just how long movies have been finished before they hit theaters. There's a lot of movies that have been that come out in those months that have actually shot like a year ago, right? But because they know that these movies have a lot of Oscar potential, even if they were done a year and a half ago, they schedule them to come out around Oscar season the following year. So a lot of those films are probably already in the can. Now, there will be some that are in the middle of shooting right now or in the middle of post-production right now, and they get delayed, and that could cause problems. Like, we're going to see, I was saying this the other day, we're going to see a cascading effect over the next while. And even when the theaters are open again and movies are playing again, we're going to see a domino effect of a lot of films that get shifted and moved that were supposed to come out much later because they just couldn't finish when they were supposed to be finished. And it's going to cause a scheduling nightmare for an awful lot of people. It really is. So that's a good observation. All right, next up, anonymous viewer also writes, just watched The Invisible Man and I liked it. Solid 7 out of 10. I give it I don't give numerical scores anymore, but if I did, I'd go as high as 8. Anyway, with great performances by Elizabeth Moss, there was talks about The Invisible Woman with Elizabeth Banks directing, but that doesn't fill me with confidence. There are better female directors. Yeah. Listen, I'm a little bit torn because I'm a card-carrying lifelong fan of Elizabeth Banks. I just think she is charming and talented and awesome. I've been in love with her ever since 40-Year-Old Virgin, and I've loved her in everything ever since. I think she's great. And so therefore, it is tough for me to say I've not found her directorial efforts to be the best. Let's just say that. But with every outing, hopefully you learn a little bit more, you get a little bit better. So we'll see. I mean, obviously they're saying with The Invisible Woman, they want to go very much a comedy route. So let's see what that turns into. But I'm not going to lie to you, Anonymous. I'm a little bit of trepidation. Let's see how that turns out. All right. Burke the Nerd writes, thank you so much for making that video based on my comment yesterday about cinematic universes. I just wanted to support your channel, but was shocked to see that people actually came over to my channel to watch my videos. The film fan community rocks. Thank you. Oh, well, no problem, Burke the Nerd. I can't remember. Oh, I remember what it is. You were asking if cinematic universes are the key to sustain success, to which I said no, because, I mean, look, other studios have tried making cinematic universes, and just because you're making shared cinematic universe does not mean it's going to work. And just because you make a shared cinematic universe or don't make a shared cinematic universe doesn't mean it won't work. So, but I remember the question, so thank you so much for that, and you're welcome. I liked answering the question. It was a good question. All right, Jetfire97 writes, have you heard the theory that Bruce Campbell's character in the Raimi Spider-Man films was Mysterio? He was the fight announcer, theater, and restaurant host. Oh yeah, and but no. I mean, he was really, if anything, he was really, Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi's stuff is really more like Stan Lee popping up in MCU movies, right? If there's a Sam Raimi film, you gotta have Bruce Campbell pop up somewhere. I mean, he doesn't always, but in the Spider-Man movies, damn right. And I expect to see that happen more in the future. I really do. So I've heard the theory. I don't put any credence to it, though. I really don't. All right, Jetfire also writes, he even said it helps to maintain the illusion. Yes, but again, I don't believe that's all after the fact, looking in a rearview mirror, making up weird theories. So I don't buy into it. All right, Taki75 writes, Outbreak is a run-of-the-mill Hollywood blockbuster. Contagion is a white-knuckled thriller whose realism and scientific accuracy make it terrifying. I disagree. I think Contagion's good, but it wasn't as clear. Like it wasn't as focused, I think, as Outbreak Outbreak was. Outbreak to me is a vastly superior movie. On almost every level. Like. So yeah, I like Contagion and everything, but it's just so unfocused. It meanders sometimes and all this kind of stuff. I don't find Contagion to be nearly as compelling. Now, again, all film is subjective, and your opinion is no less valid than mine. I have a completely different perspective on it. I think Outbreak is the superior film. Richard Karate writes, do you think if anytime soon Brock Lesnar actually stops talking about it and does go back to UFC that he could beat Miocic for the heavyweight belt? No, he can't beat Stipe. He just can't. He cannot beat Stipe Miocic. No. Now, I think Brock Lesnar could go back into the UFC today and be a competitive fighter. I think he could be a competitive mid-card fighter. But Stipe Miocic cannot beat Daniel Cormier. Stipe Miocic I should say Brock Lesnar cannot beat Daniel Cormier. Stipe Miocic has beaten Daniel Cormier. Brock Lesnar can't beat Daniel Cormier. He can't beat Stipe Miocic. He cannot beat the top level, like any top 10 ranked heavyweight right now. He can't beat Francis Ngannou. He cannot beat the Black Beast. He cannot beat, he just can't beat these guys. But he can be a legitimate mid-card fighter and be competitive. He can fight guys. He could be a gatekeeper. And a lot of people see that as a bad word. I don't think so, but he could be a gatekeeper. He could be one of ththese guys that you could put on a UFC fight night that'll get a lot of views, and have maybe some dude who's like 6-0 or 8-1 who's an up and comer, and you make him fight a Brock Lesnar. And if you can beat Brock Lesnar, okay, then you move up to the next level. But Brock Lesnar will also beat a lot of those guys. But a top tier fighter like a Stipe, no. Stipe is a dangerous kind of animal. He really is. So, but he can be knocked out too with the right punch. Daniel Cormier proved that as well. All right. Richard also writes, for $100 million, John, would you rather have a UFC fight in the octagon against Khabib or a match in a Hell in the Cell against Undertaker? Oh, it's easy. Khabib. You know why? Because Khabib will get his hand on me and I'll just go tap, tap, done. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the fight. It was wonderful. Honored to be in the ring with you, sir. And then I'll leave. Yep. Now, $100 million, but I have to go 10 minutes, no tapping out against Khabib or the Hell in the Cell against The Undertaker. Then I'll go Hell in the Cell against The Undertaker. Then I'll take that one. But as long as I have the ability to just go tap, like as soon as Khabib wraps that arm around my neck, I'm like, nope, done. Thank you very much. Been a pleasure meeting you, sir. I'm out of here, because Khabib is simply the baddest man on the planet. Pound for pound, he has no equal. He has no equal. None. Pound for pound, there's no. Some people say John Bones Jones. Some people say, anybody else. But I'm telling you what, no, it's not. It's Khabib. Khabib Nurmagomedov is the scariest man alive. And he walks through the people he fights. He just walks through them. He's never had a truly competitive fight. None of his fights in the UFC have ever been even competitive. Like, he took care of McGregor pretty damn easily. He even played McGregor, like he even chose not to grapple with McGregor for a few rounds. He decided he was going to stand and strike with McGregor. And guess what? He was striking strike for strike with McGregor. Then the moment Khabib goes, all right, time for me to drag you into deep water and pull you to the ground and suffocate you, then he did it. He just walks through everybody. John Bones Jones, first of all, John Bones Jones is not the light heavyweight champion, in my opinion. He lost to Reyes. Like, Reyes won that fight. Reyes, to me, it was clear he won. It's not like Reyes beat the hell out of him and it was a one-sided fight. No, it was close. It was, but I thought it was definitive. I thought Reyes won that fight, and he should be the light heavyweight champion right now. But when you look at fights that he's had with Reyes, when you look at fights like the last one he had, if that dude didn't break his leg or ankle, whatever it was, or in his hand, I thought he was beating up John Bones. His first fight against Gustafsson, you go back, John Bones Jones has escaped. And don't get me wrong, John Bones Jones is great. He's a great fighter. Make no mistake about it. I'm not pretending he isn't. But he's had a lot of narrow escapes. Khabib, he's never been tested. They have put the best in the world in there against him, and he walks through them. There's nobody is his equal. Now, this fight against Ferguson, whenever it happens, if it ever happens, will definitely be interesting. I think Ferguson poses a unique problem to Khabib that Khabib hasn't faced before, but I still think at the end of the day, Khabib gets his hand raised, and probably without too much sweat. But listen, Tony's a dangerous dude. And listen, one punch can end any fight in the UFC. We've seen it happen before. Matt Serra beat George St. Pierre, for heaven's sakes, right? One punch can change everything. And that can happen to Khabib as well. But man, I've seen Khabib take some heavy shots and he's never blinked. I don't know, man. Yeah, there it is. Anyway, Jay Master writes, hey, John, I highly recommend watching the new Disney feature film Dolphin Reef, narrated by Natalie Portman, coming to Disney Plus on April 3rd. If it hasn't come out yet, how have you seen it? At any rate, I'm a sucker for nature documentaries. I don't advertise that a lot, but it's true. I am a bit of a sucker for nature documentaries, so I will probably have to check that thing out. All right, next up, Richard Karate writes, which sibling actors are the best? Maggie and Jake Gyllenhaal, Chris and Liam Hemsworth. No, Chris is really good. Liam's not that great of a thespian. I like Liam Hemsworth. I've met him a few times. Really super nice guy. I haven't seen anything that's impressed me with his acting yet, though. Ben and Casey Affleck, that's a terrific duo. John and Joan Cusack, another terrific duo. But there you go. There you go, right there. Rafe and Joseph Fiennes, I should say. Kate and Rooney Mara are both great. That's an easy question. Rafe and Joseph Fiennes. These are both Academy level actors. Ralph Fiennes, after Gary Oldman won his Academy Award, let me just double check this though. Hold on a second. Let me just go in here. Why did I not get the answer I was looking for? Where did it go? Why can I not find... Hold on a second. There we go. There he is. Ralph Fiennes. Okay. Yeah, after Gary Oldman won his Academy Award for playing Churchill, the mantle of best actor in the world not to have an Academy Award passed from Gary Oldman to Ralph Fiennes. And Ralph Fiennes' brother, as a matter of fact, Joseph Fiennes, is almost every bit as good. Now, Joseph Fiennes was amazing in Shakespeare in Love. He also has never won an Academy Award, but could have. Right now, he is insanely good in The Handmaid's Tale. He's insanely good in Handmaid's Tale. But he acted alongside of Al Pacino in Merchant of Venice. And first of all, I think it's his greatest performance. Al Pacino in Merchant of Venice as Shylock is, I think, his greatest performance. But Ralph Fiennes was every bit as good, or Joseph Fiennes was every bit as good. Joseph Fiennes is incredible. He's absolutely top-notch, world class. Both of these brothers are great. And so while Maggie and Jake are wonderful, I love them both. Kristen Leanne, Ben and Casey, both great. I'm fans of both of their talents. John, who doesn't like the Cusacks? Kate and Rooney Mara are great, but it's got to be Ben and Kate. It's got to be Rafe and Joseph Fiennes. To me, that's an easy one. To me, that is an easy one. And Hollywood has been filled with great siblings, but to me, that's the one I go for, Richard. That's the one I go for. Anyway, that great question. Thanks for writing that in. All right. Richard also writes, my top 10 favorite movies. Number 1, Rocky 2, the one where he finally beats Apollo. Number 2, The Mask of Zorro. A lot of people love that movie. Number 3, Titan AE. Number 4, Wing Commander. You know what? You're like the second person to mention Wing Commander. And I'm like, really? Wing Commander? With Freddy? Wing Commander? Really? All right. You're not the first person to mention it either. Anyway, 5, Treasure Planet. Number 6, Rocky 7. Rocky. Sorry, not Rocky 7. Rocky. Number 7, Avengers Endgame. Number 8, Conan the Destroyer. Number 9, Return of the Jedi. Number 10, The Iron Giant. There was a lot of talk about Iron Giant recently. Somebody was asking if we think, they could do a live action Iron Giant. I'm not sure. To me, there's something about the magic of Iron Giant that is inseparably connected to the fact that it is animated. I mean, not automatically, not necessarily, but there's something about that just seems really, really connected to the medium of animation. You know what I mean? So I don't know that you can do that, but maybe. Anyway, that's a very different kind of list, Richard. And I love seeing these eclectic lists. So well done, sir. Well done. All right. Slim Trav writes, did Norbert cost Eddie Murphy an Oscar for Dreamgirls? No. He just didn't win. I listen, whenever somebody doesn't win that many were hoping will win, they start to look for the reason. Why didn't? Well, the reason they didn't because they thought somebody else was better. That's just so. No, I do not believe Norbert cost Eddie Murphy an Oscar. Let's see. Jake Iyer writes, just want to say thanks for the entertainment during this time. Well, thank you for being here and being a part of it, Jake. As for the Avatar versus Endgame debate, if you base it on inflation, it's Gone with the Wind. I mean, yeah, again, if you want to go into it and all that kind of stuff, to me, I don't take any of the excuses. It's just, what's the number? That's it. That's all. What's the number? Whoever's got the bigger number, it's cold, it's unforgiving, it's uncompromising, it's undebatable, it's the number. Who's got the bigger number? That's it. Get out of here with these excuses of inflation or how many movies of a built up was it, or this one's a standalone movie. I don't care. All I want is what's the final number. And if it's Endgame, then it's Endgame. No discussions. And if Avatar passes it, then it's Avatar. No discussions. And then Endgame comes out again in a few years to celebrate its anniversary, and it passes Avatar again, then it's Endgame. No discussions. That's all it is to me. The cold, hard facts of it. The unforgiving facts, Jake. All right, Richard Karate writes, have you seen Ip Man movies? Oh, yes. Donnie Yen, Ip Man. I always called it IP Man. For the longest time, I called it IP Man. I don't know why I did, but I always called it IP Man. I gotta tell you too, I don't love all of them, particularly the later ones. But the first couple of ones I absolutely adored. Let's see. QS Hicks writes, hey, John, where do box office profits go? I know that most of it goes to paying back lenders and theaters, and I guess executives do. The profits go back to the studio. Yeah, the profits go to the studio because profit is what does the studio get after everybody's been paid. That's what profit is, right? So if a movie makes $30 million in profit, well, that goes to the studio. Now, there's going to be some things, so that's paying off everybody's chunk, everybody's share, all the bills have been paid, theaters got their cut, so everything that's left after that, after everybody's been paid, that's your profit. So who gets the profit? The studio gets the profit. Producers get their cut and their fee, their producer's fee. There are certain actors get a cut, a percentage, like a Robert Downey Jr. will get points on the movie. Okay, then that's been accounted. But once all of that is settled, you're left with the profit, goes to the studio. I mean, that's an oversimplification. I mean, there's a lot of little caveats to that, but basically speaking, that's where you're at. All right. Comic World writes, Grist, Iron Man, and Captain America currently out of the MCU. Are you still as interested? No. Listen, I've said this before. I will say it again. And I'm not alone. I my enthusiasm of the MCU has dropped since Endgame and I think there's a lot of film fans that feel the same way. It just felt like that was it. That was the crescendo. There it was. Endgame. That was a crescendo. And it was awesome. It was big. It was bombastic, filled with fan service, big cheers, big, moments. And it feels like it's done. And, on top of all that, the two main pillars of the MCU, Chris Evans as Captain America and Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, who will both be back, by the way, at some point. Now, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, maybe not in 3 years, but both of them will be back. Mark my words. Anyway, but the two main pillars. So not only does it feel like it crescendoed in Endgame, the two main pillars are now gone. They've been the heart and soul of the franchise. They haven't been the only great pieces of the franchise, but they've been the heart and the soul of the franchise at this point. Now, that doesn't mean that enthusiasm won't come back. That doesn't mean that once we get, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and Thor: Love and Thunder, and Black Widow, and Eternals, and Falcon and Winter Soldier hits Disney Plus, and Loki hits. That's not to say that it can't get all of that momentum back. It could. But right now, there is not nearly as much enthusiasm for the MCU as there was 2 weeks before Endgame came out in theaters. That's just the fact. That's just a fact. Now, there are still many people, and I'm sure some of you guys watching that would say right now, hey man, I'm even more excited about the MCU right now. That's great. But amongst a lot of people, including a lot of the average movie-going audience, there is not as much enthusiasm for the MCU right now as there was 2 weeks before the opening of Endgame. And it could all come back. It could all come back. But today, March 26th, there's just not as much enthusiasm because of those factors. Endgame felt like the finale. The two major heartbeats of the franchise are gone. How good of a job they do with these next few movies is going to say a lot about where the MCU goes in the next 2 or 3 years. So, hey, it's Kevin Feige. Never doubt him. He could win it all back. But as of today, there is not as much enthusiasm. And I admit that with myself too. I'm a big MCU fan, but I admit I don't have as much enthusiasm for it today, right now. It could all change once I see Black Widow, though. Could all change. So we'll have to wait and see. All right. I only got about 10 minutes left here, guys. I'm actually supposed to do something I got to do something with Mark Ellis here, and actually at 3:30. So I'm going to get through as many here as we can. We might even get through these all. Anyway, AJ Lancaster writes, throwing out my idea, free month trial of A-List for similar subscription programs with re-released films until X date. Throw together a deal where maybe the distributor gets a higher percentage of the box office on a tentpole film in exchange for the release. See, this is why this won't work. With an A-List membership, when you go to the theater and you use A-List, AMC counts that as roughly a $10 movie purchase. All right? It counts as a $9.95 or something like that movie ticket purchase. So for accounting, even though you didn't give AMC any money, AMC now has to turn around and give the studios their big chunk of that purchase. Even though you didn't actually pay any money, it counts as a $9-something movie ticket purchase. So AMC has to turn around and give like $6.50, maybe $7 to the studios. So that's money going out of their stuff. So right now, AMC and theaters are in a position where they cannot pay studios anything right now. They can't, especially not if they're getting movie ticket money from people. Like, if you want to give them a $10 bill and then they get that $10 bill and pays the studios with your $10 bill, that's fine. They can't afford it to do it this way, though. Not right now. Not with giving somebody a free AMC A-List membership, and yet they still have to pay the studios money every time you come and use that. They'll be done. They'll sink. They'll sink. But, I think the answer is more simple. I think as you have free movies for like the first week or so on older films, so studios aren't losing any money. You give the studios time to ramp up a marketing campaign for their upcoming movies. Movie theaters get people back into the theaters and they're buying popcorn. I think it's a win for everybody. And maybe they'll come up with a better idea than that, but I think that one would work right now. Who knows? We'll wait and see. All right. NKS432 writes, John, try Altered Carbon re-sleeved. Re-sleeved? I don't know what that means. On Netflix. I tried a bit of it. Didn't quite like it. And then I had a lot of people I know tell me they didn't like it. I've also heard from a lot of people they really did love it, but I've got too many other shows right now that I am deeply interested in, that I have everybody telling me to check out on a queue that I got to get to. So I think Altered Carbon is one I've let pass by. I think I've let that one pass by. But you never know. You never know. All right, Richard Karate writes, Timothy Dalton is my favorite Bond. He only did 2 movies. I think he was underrated as Bond. What did you think of him? And I wish he had done more. First of all, I like Timothy Dalton very much. He's currently in Doom Patrol, in which he was great. He was great in Chuck. He's done a lot to kind of diversify up his career. He's actually all kinds of wonderful, and I like him a lot. I don't know if I love his Bond movies, though, to be honest with you. Although the one that he did was License to Kill. Was it License to Kill? Anyway. The one he did, I know I quite enjoyed. But I mean, to me, Roger Moore, Sean Connery, to me, look, Roger Moore and Sean Connery were the two, and continue this day to be the two kind of embodiments of Bond. Sean Connery, the ass-kicking Bond, Roger Moore, the suave Bond. And to me, Daniel Craig has been like the perfect amalgamation of those two. He has the kick-assness of the Sean Connery while also carrying the suaveness of a Roger Moore. So there's all that. I would put Timothy Dalton on level with Pierce Brosnan. I thought they were both very good. But then you got that upper echelon of Bond, which is Connery, Moore, Daniel Craig. At least that is to me. But that's how I see it. But man, I am a big fan of Timothy Dalton. And if you have not seen him in Doom Patrol, do yourself a favor and go watch him in Doom Patrol. All right, Richard Karate also writes, my friends think I'm crazy, but I kind of like Val Kilmer as Batman. Keaton is my favorite, but I dug Kilmer. Would have liked to see him return. Your thoughts? I'll tell you what. This may sound like a weird distinction. But I thought Val Kilmer was a good Batman. Didn't like him very much, and I was a Val Kilmer fan, but I didn't think he was all that great of a Bruce Wayne, you know? Whereas George Clooney, I thought he was a great Bruce Wayne, not a great Batman. You know what I mean? So Michael Keaton was such an odd choice, though, for Batman. I mean, look, it worked out great, but when you think back on it, Mr. Mom, this little guy as Batman, it's a strange thing, but it worked so very well. It really did. But my favorite iteration of Batman is still Ben Affleck, actually. Now, don't get me wrong. The best Batman movies were Christopher Nolan's movies, no doubt. But I just love the iteration that Ben gave us, particularly in Batman versus Superman. Not as much in Justice League, but more Batman versus Superman. But anyway, that's just my thought on that. Okay, but I liked Val Kilmer as Batman. When he had the cape and cowl on, man, I bought into it. I liked him as Batman. All right, Plorkins McPorkster writes, thoughts on Patch Adams? Oh, it's great. I love Patch Adams. Anyway, a movie I really enjoy, but most critics seem to hate. Really? Most critics hate Patch Adams? Is that true? Hold a second. Let me look this up. I personally really like Patch Adams. In 98, it's got a, you're not wrong, man. It's got like a 22% Rotten Tomato score. I like Patch Adams. Sue me. I didn't realize that the critic score on that was that low. Well, whatever. Plorkin, you and me can like it ourselves. I don't care what anybody else says. I like Patch Adams. I mean, not every Robin Williams movie is gold, but I like Patch Adams. So there, I stick by that. All right, Richard Karate writes, one of my favorite artists is Meatloaf. He has a great voice. We get a Meatloaf biopic. I don't know. I just don't know that there's enough wide interest in Meatloaf. I mean, he would do anything for love, but he won't do that. His Bat Outta Hell album and all that kind of stuff. Okay, I could be way off on this because I don't have my finger on the pulse of music culture. I really don't. So take what I say with a grain of salt. I've never felt the interest in Meatloaf amongst a wide enough audience like there was in Johnny Cash, or like there was in, Queen, or like there was in Elton John. I've just never felt that level of general interest among average people and average fans that would rush out to see a Meatloaf biopic. So I could be wrong about that. I could be very wrong about that, but I suspect we're not going to see a Meatloaf biopic. That's just my guess. Could be wrong. Could be way, way wrong, but that's my guess at any rate. All right, last couple of questions here, guys, and then we got to wrap it up. Andreas, a.k.a., writes, "Hey, John, went to the movie and saw The Gentleman before it closed, and I loved it from Norway. The Gentleman remains my favorite movie of the year so far. Very thin year so far, very short year so far, but Invisible Man is my number 2 favorite movie of the year. Love that movie more than I should have. But Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman, it was everything I was hoping it would be. I had so much joy watching that movie. Just so much unadulterated fun. I loved it so much. It is my favorite movie of the year. I'm glad you had a chance to see it, Andres, before they shut the theaters down. And I'm glad you enjoyed it too, my friend. All right, Yusuf Alvi writes, "Watched Raging Bull as a part of my quarantine. Scorsese is the GOAT, my favorite filmmaker, and it will be a sad day when he leaves." Ugh, why think about that? Why think about when he leaves us? Listen, Scorsese still got many films ahead of him, man. He still has many films ahead of him, so I wouldn't worry about that. But Scorsese, look, if there's a Mount Rushmore of film directors, it's a hard case not to put Martin Scorsese on that Mount Rushmore. It's a hard case not to put him up there. I mean, no doubt. And by the way, Raging Bull, we've been talking a lot the last few days about people taking advantage of the quarantine time and all that, kind of get caught up on some of the classics. Raging Bull is one that actually, and I'm embarrassed to say this, that has not been brought up much. That is one you should check out. So follow Yusuf's example here and check out Raging Bull if you get a chance, because I think you'll be glad that you did. All right. Man Mountain Gherkin writes, "Would it make any sense for Kark movie review YouTubers," I have no idea what any of that means, "to temporarily transition to Q&A super chat shows for a while?" I have no idea. I don't know who Papa Cart is. I don't know what CS and JJ... Sorry, dude. I would love to answer. I have no idea what we're talking about, though. All right. Yusuf writes, "Did you hear about John Jones?" Oh, yeah. The dude. Yeah, the guy's a total jackass. "God, how is he still walking a free man? He could have killed somebody. He needs to face the music. It's gone too far." For those of you who missed it, John Bones Jones arrested again, driving intoxicated and drunk with a loaded gun and an open bottle of booze beside him. And the police caught him because they were responding to reports of gunshots being fired. Oh, yeah, that's great. Drunk guy behind the wheel of a car firing off a gun. What can possibly go wrong? This guy is a first-class, world-class moron. Anyway, last 2 questions, guys. Daniel Rahimi writes, "USA has the most infected cases now, mainly because of New York City, where I live. What am I to do? Asking for guidance." Well, dude, stay home, stay safe. But I mean, I don't know. I am not a medical expert. Everybody right now thinks they're a medical expert. I know very well that I am not. So the best advice I can give is the advice that everybody's been giving. Stay home, wash your hands thoroughly all the time, isolation, stay in lockdown for as much as you can, and act like you've caught it already. Act like you've caught it. Act like you've got it. Because if you realize you've got it, you are really going to take extra steps to make sure you don't infect anybody else and you're going to stay sheltered away for a while. Do that. But again, remember, I am not the expert. I don't have a medical degree. I'm just telling you what everybody else has been saying. All right, Wave Wonder 1 writes, "Are Avatar and Endgame destined to dance forever?" They might be. I mean, it's going to be a long time before any other film crosses the $2.5 billion mark. It's going to be a long time. So I think you're going to, maybe not forever, but you're going to see these 2 films going back and forth for a while. Ben Rayner writes, "Who was more integral to their respective franchise, Chris Evans in RDJ and MCU or Stephen Amell in Arrowverse? I agree I lost some of my energy for MCU and Arrowverse because of these departures." I think you got to say Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. to the MCU, which is just such a different scale. Such a different scale. The reality is even with Stephen Amell playing Arrow, and I was a big Arrow fan and I love Stephen Amell, but it only got with him leading the ship, it only got a certain amount of success. Maybe got all the success it was going to get, but Arrow never became a big pop culture success. You know, they have modest ratings. All the CW shows, all the CW Arrowverse shows have modest ratings. And those who watch it are very passionate. But on that basis, I think you got to look at Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. and just say, yeah, look, Stephen Amell was very important to the Arrowverse. Absolutely, no doubt. But Chris Evans and RDJ, I mean, that's pretty integral. Let's see what they can do after that. All right. Final question today. We got through all of them. Leo Milmet writes, I love the first Rush Hour film. I do not. Awesome. Lalo Schifrin's score, fun dialogue, good chemistry between the leads. Number 2 and 3 aren't very good. I know you love number 2. I don't have a problem with the broad characters. Fun film for quarantine for when you feel like blow off. You know, I did not like the first Rush Hour. I didn't like it. And because of that, I almost didn't watch the second one. And yes, I love the second one. That's an example to me of a film that is where the sequel is actually better than the original. I love the second one. But yeah, I got to admit, I'm not a big fan of the original myself. But that's why films are subjective. Just because I didn't get the joy out of it, you did, and that's the important thing, Leo. And I'm glad you enjoy it. So at least you and I can both say we both like one of the Rush Hour films. We just happen to like different ones, but we both like one of the Rush Hour films. Honestly, I thought the second one was great. You got Zhang Ziyi in there. I love Zhang Ziyi. So you got her in that one as well. I just thought it had pop and energy. Third one, I don't know what happened. The wheels came off the truck. I have no idea. It's just third one, not so good. All right, guys. That'll do it. I need to really rush and close this thing out here because I'm supposed to be doing something with else in a second. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today for this little impromptu open mic as we got through all the questions from earlier today, and we got through a whole bunch of new ones here today as well. I hope you guys have a fabulous rest of your day. Thank you for being here, and thank you to all you guys who sent in questions earlier on today's John Campea Show and right now, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about. You also supported the channel while you're doing it, and all of us associated with the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you guys very much for that. All right, guys, have yourself a safe but enjoyable and relaxing, hopefully classic movie-filled rest of your day. Don't forget, Robert Meyer Burnett and I will be back with the John Campea Show tomorrow. Make sure you guys come back and join us for that. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks so much for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.